Okay, so here we go. We're gonna mix our complementary color mix from green to red. Um, and you're basically gonna take your canvas board, and this is an 11 by 14 canvas, and you're gonna prepare your palette. I'm working with oil color here, and so I have a cadmium red and a permanent green light over here with a little bit of this solvent-free gel. We use the fluid in our class, but I also like the gel sometimes. So I simply took a piece of tape here and I took the width of the ruler to just mark out, looks like 8 spaces here. So I'll take the green, see if I can do this. I'm going to take the green and I'm going to take a little bit of this solvent-free gel and mix it into the green. And basically this is just going to help with the drying time. And let's see if I can get the right angle here. We want to apply a nice thick layer. We don't want to see the texture of the canvas or make that transparent at all. So I'm just going to use my palette knife. I don't really care about it being perfect along the edge, although if you do, you can simply take your tape initially and place it on the line, like so. So I said I didn't care, but I actually do like crisp edges, so there's something very satisfying about applying that tape there. Although probably when I lift it up, it'll bleed a little bit. Okay, so there's that. And then we're simply going to, since I'm likely going to use this whole batch here, I'm just going to put some of this solvent-free gel into it to help the drying time. And now we're going to make very subtle incremental changes to the value here. And we'll start with a little bit of red until it lightly changes. A little bit more. That wasn't enough of a difference, right? So remember, we want marked changes. This is still too close. It's like not worth it. So add a little bit more. We don't want to go too far though. That's pretty good. That made a change. And so I'll take some of that and I will check it or test it. That looks pretty good. So I will apply that in the next box. I'm going to use the edge of my palette knife to try to get a crisp edge. And it's like spreading a very thick layer of butter, right? We want it buttery. We don't want to see the texture of the canvas or the white of the canvas. And so I'm going to bring the color right up against that first layer so that they touch and create an edge. Okay. And then we're going to take a little bit more red. And go to the next value. And I'm going to apply a tiny bit there and see if that's big enough of a jump, and it is. So apply it right up to the edge and pull. And then I'm going to go right up to this edge and pull in, just to keep that control. And take a little more red. That doesn't look like that big of a difference, but I'll check. Just stand up to look at it. That looks pretty good. So we're still in the green family here. Good. I think that's okay. So I have to confess, I was incredibly subtle in this transition. And so then actually I should probably have added 9 steps because I like getting 4 steps in. So I have a decision to make. I know that when I show you the sample in class, it has that middle color that is a complementary neutral. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift this color out of here and I'm going to make just a really small sliver of a color that is right in between the two. Remember that complementary neutral is the color that's not quite red, not quite green anymore. It's like this murky complementary neutral that goes into the brown family. And we do want to get there. That's going to be our complementary mix that we mix into other colors in on our painting in order to create harmony in our painting. So I'm just going to add 1 box here. Well, that's going to fit right in between the two. All right. So now we go to the red. So you can see that that was a fairly simple process, and it went very quickly for me because I was checking the steps as I was working, and that made it easier so that I don't have to go back and make changes. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did to the green here, and I'm going to add some of the gel. If you have the liquid, you basically just dip your palette into the liquid and your palette knife into the liquid and add just a little bit of that. This, I probably added a little bit too much gel. The nice thing is it makes it super, super buttery. Okay, so I'm going to take some of this. I'm going to take the original red, right? And I'm going to apply it to this part, to the first box. I'm going to make sure that it's nice and thick and that it's covering it. Because when we go to paint, that's really how we want to paint. We want to avoid transparent paint. This isn't a watercolor painting class. This is oil painting. Oil paint is, or acrylic, is can be very thick and can cover, and so we want to do that. All right, so now I'm going to take that whole batch and I'm going to put a little more green out and take little bits of green. I'm going to add it to the red. And look how beautiful that color is. Oh my God, that's so gorgeous. And there's a part of me that feels like, gosh, maybe I went a little bit too dark. Probably went a little bit too dark. I'm actually going to see if I can save that one for value number 3 and see if I can just be a little bit more subtle in transition 2. Oops, I almost grabbed the other green. That's probably pretty good right there. So I'll take this, and I'm not absolutely certain, but I'm going to check it, and I'll apply it next to this value, next to this color, this hue. And this is the reason why we're practicing this is so that we can keep very rich color, right? That we can keep the saturation of a color. We can still see the mix, that the red that was used as we make transitions in the shadow areas. And so shadows aren't black, although we think they are, or our brain thinks they are. But they're not just a pure black. They have all these incredibly beautiful values, warm and cool, And now we get to paint that, or start to see it anyway, start to get our eyes to see it. And that's like the magic of painting. All right, so pretty. Oh, you know what I just screwed up on something, which is good. It's good for this video to have a mistake. Usually, I actually keep all of these colors sorted. And the reason why I do is because we mix them into the white and then we go a lot faster. So it's good for you to see the mistake that I made. And I wonder if I want to re-record. Okay, so this one went to a neutral very quick, more of a brown, which is okay. And let's check it. Oh, that's pretty. Okay, so here we go. So it's really good for you to see me make mistakes as well. So if we weren't adding white to the mixes, then of course this would be perfect, be finished. But in this case, I might have to cheat a little bit. So let's see what I can do. Let's see if I can save some of this. So maybe I'm going to take this color and work my way backwards. I'm actually going to try to cheat and pick up some of this color. This is like the worst demo. Oh my God, that's so funny. So there's a lesson in this, which is just being really gracious with ourselves, right? And finding creative solutions. And so of course I can quickly mix these colors and get pretty close, but we want to save time, obviously, on this. And so fortunately, I had put quite a bit of paint on these blocks, and so I can easily still pick up some, and I should be able to add white to all of these mixes and not have to go back and mix them again. So typically, when we are going to use the mix again, we should probably save a little bit of the colors as we mix so that we can add white. So you're going to see how this will be very, very helpful to have. So I don't want to scrape too much. I think that that's this color. Let me check it. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so that's that color. And then this one, I can pull a little bit off. All right. So the terrible thing is that I don't have white right here. So I have to step away for a second. Okay. I got my white. This is so funny. I got my white. It's a little bit of an old white, so I'm going to mix some of this medium into it. And we want these colors to actually be fairly light. We want to see like, okay, what's a super pastel color, super pastel value that I can make with this. pull that up and put it aside. And this is where it gets a little bit messy with the oil paint if we're not careful. And because I liked the crisp edge, I'm going to go ahead and take the tape and I'm going to make this kind of thin because I didn't save my colors, remember? I thought I was being so clever. I'm going to take this and I'm going to apply it right along the edge there. Right, like so. Let me go right to the line and go in. And then wipe this off and then add white to the next, where are you? And if it doesn't make that big of a difference, then add a little more white. You don't actually add the same ratio of white to all of the colors. So this one actually ended up being a little bit lighter. Let's see if I have enough. Okay. It's so terrible. This is really good for you to see. It's so terrible to mix such tiny amounts. I like have to slow down. I put the colors a little bit too close to each other. When you don't mix enough paint, you're like really trying to stretch it. It's just terrible. See that? Like it actually takes longer. So the cool thing is when you're mixing these colors, then your eyes are becoming a little bit more sensitized to all of these colors. And then you start looking for these colors in your red and green still life. And you look for highlights that tend to go into this gray, really beautiful gray value. Such a pretty color. Oh, I have some of this. That's so great. So just when you thought, like, oh, what is that color? It's so terrible. It goes to this very beautiful neutral kind of beige. And if you were to like take this neutral beige color, for example, you'd never imagine. You take this beautiful, I'm going off my demo here, but you take a color like this, and then you take a hint of red to it, right? And then you've got something with a little bit of a pink undertone, right? So you can make very, very subtle transitions to your colors by just adding hints of another color to it. So it's exciting. You're covering all the white of the canvas. And when you paint, you want to cover the white of the canvas. So when you make your still life, you don't have to just pick objects that are pure red. You can pick objects that go into all of these color families. Fabrics. You can use clothing in a still life, right? To put like under an apple or whatever, and because you're just using the color, we don't need to know, where that fabric came from. So notice what I'm doing with my hand. I started getting a little shaky, and so I put my hand underneath my palm, and I'm steadying my hand over here so that I can lay this color in here. A little more control. And one more value with the pure red. Or one more tint, right? Tint is a color plus white. I really want these colors to butt up right against each other so that we can see the value jump. This is exactly what you want to happen in your paintings. Is you want those colors to sit right next to each other, because we're not relying on edge or drawing ability in order to make things feel volumetric. You're relying on paint and value transitions in order to make it happen. So there we go. That is the complementary red to green mix that you're going to study and place on the edge of your canvas for the red-green painting. Yeah. All right, enjoy.